Let's talk about the coronavirus and how it affects your business and your personal life economically and what you can do about it. Now, you have a business or a job. You're laying in bed at night staring at the ceiling, worrying about how are you going to pay the bills. And if you have a business, your employees, your credit line or your credit card or your rent or commercial mortgage, your house payment or your car payment. And you have little to no money coming in, and your stock market portfolio is in the toilet. So what do? And I understand. I run a company that sets up companies and trusts that protect people's assets from lawsuits, and I've done that for the past 3 decades nearly, and I've really seen it all. So what do? Well, in business and in life, in our personal life as well, oxygen is cash and cash flow. Oxygen is something we rarely think of until it's been cut off, and then it becomes our highest priority. And the reason is obvious. Without oxygen, life rapidly becomes increasingly uncomfortable, and then you die quickly. So when your cash becomes low and your cash flow lurches you into negative territory, your survival is dictated by how quickly and effectively you address the problem. Delaying or minimizing the fix or hoping that cash suddenly is restored and things get back to normal is a prescription for a painful death. So in light of the current economic turmoil, you probably have several competing agendas and priorities, and with all these issues, they must be addressed, and you must address your highest priority, and you need to have a granular, detailed, specific, up-to-date understanding of your oxygen supply, oxygen production capabilities, and oxygen storage tanks. Now, you must be able to accurately estimate the changes you must make to ensure survival, and the problem is correctly estimating the length of time that this will last. The mistake that most people make when dealing with a crisis is to be overly optimistic about the time period they need to be in survival mode. The default assumption we make is the problem will be rectified sooner rather than later, and therefore the adjustments and cuts that need to get made are not deep enough, particularly with our personal spending. Now, the unhappy result is that cash that could have been used to preserve and extend our life, if the problem goes on longer than estimated, gets consumed, and once cash has been spent, it's gone forever. So it's critical that you have extreme clarity and specificity about your financial status, cash reserves, and anticipated short-term cash forecast. So glossy, foggy, fluffy, gut feel generalizations are the enemy of clarity. In addition, you must know and be able to report on your current cash balances, your accounts receivable that can be collected quickly or is overdue, and what needs to happen to keep your accounts receivable going forward. Projected cash flow from operations, assuming the current environment remains as is for 3 to 4 months. You need to know your projected cash burn rate. That is your total expenses on a monthly basis. You need to know your variable versus fixed monthly expenses. You need to know your payments, like the loan, landlord, vendors, that can be extended or delayed. The source and amount of financing available, and this is either from your line of credit at the bank or additional bank institutional financing, your personal funds available to be injected if necessary, or friends or family, etc., and any stray or unused assets that can be liquidated for cash. Now, the amount of your personal burn rate and the amount that burn rate can be curtailed to preserve cash for the business. The excess baggage and fat that can be curtailed, delayed, furloughed, whacked in your expenses, and sometimes muscle will need to be considered for reduction. The last thing you need to cut, and that's the last thing you need to cut to the bone. You can rebuild after the crisis, but if there's no bone left, you have to be careful there. So you don't want to necessarily cut to the bone. Expansion, growth, or CapEx plans, expenditures that can be delayed. That's another issue you might need to consider. And then a summary of all the adjustments that you either have or will make and how those changes will result in your survival over the next 3 to 4 months. So do the math. Be clear about your assumptions. Now, your communication plan with your team / employees about your plan and how it impacts them. That must be done. And I can tell you from personal experience that if a plan is communicated effectively, it can solidify your culture. And if it's done poorly, it will destroy your culture. So Be thoughtful about this. Your employees are not ignorant about what's going on, and you pretending everything is okay erodes your effectiveness and credibility as a leader. So you must be clear and concise and communicate your thoughts and what's going on. And if you can't devise a plan that sees you through the next 3 to 4 months, then you will need to revisit your plan or make further adjustments or get more creative. And if that doesn't work, then you must source and begin meeting with a bankruptcy lawyer, okay? A Chapter 11 bankruptcy lawyer, so you can understand your options. So the key thing is take action now so that won't be necessary. Now, what's the most important thing in business or sales? The most important thing in business sales is the psychology of the owner. The psychology of the owner is the most important thing in business. And the mental state of, if you're an employee, the mental state of you as an employee. That's the most important thing. We need to get our thinking right and focus on our goals. Realize the worst thing about an event like the coronavirus is not necessarily what happens. It's worrying about what's going to happen. If you are, and number 2, if you're in a high demand industry, people will still need what you sell when this is over. Remember that. So you will be back on your feet when this is through. And somebody says, yeah, but I'm hurting right now. I need something right now. Now think about your personal survival more than you think about your credit report. Remember, a credit score is a scheme devised by the lending industry to keep you in debt. Keep your credit score up so you can get more debt. That's the idea. So if something happens to your credit, well, don't try to make that happen. Don't be lazy. But if it happens, it happens. It's not the end of the world. And number 4, communicate. As your landlord or mortgage company, for one, may give you a little reprieve. The worst thing they can do is say no. So you can ask them, can I have a month reprieve? Can I have a month to not pay you? You never know. They may just give you a 1 month break that you never have to pay back, or they may just roll it into your mortgage or lease. So all you need to do is just ask. They don't want you out of business. They want your money when things are better. So throw your ego away. Don't worry about what people think, who you'll never meet, who you stop side by side at a red light and you're thumping your chest because you have a better car than them. So whatever your expenses are, cut them as deeply as you can, and remember, this too shall pass.